At first look, you might just think this is a hardtail XC mountain bike. A closer look, you might see signs of it being full suspension. And if you really squint, you'll realize it's electric. This is the Scott Lumen, a bike that's stealthy and subtle, but surprisingly capable with the tricks it has up its sleeve. And now it's seeing discounts as an older gen model. Let's find out what it's best at in today's review. Hey everybody, and welcome to Electric Bike Report. Today we're going to be talking about the Scott Lumen eRIDE 920 and what it's all about. Now, usually lightweight, nimble, and incredibly responsive, those aren't words we often throw around when talking about e-bikes. Usually we're thinking heavier frames, chunky motors, and that unmistakable battery bulge. But what happens when a brand like Scott decides to flip the script and build an eMTB that feels more like a purebred XC ride than a full power bruiser? Well, that's exactly what the Lumen eRIDE set out to do. And this thing is all about subtlety and precision. At first glance, you might not even realize it's electric. The lines are clean, the motor's tucked away, and the integrated suspension hides the shock entirely inside the carbon frame. It's a really slick design move that keeps the look seamless and the weight impressively low. Our test model, a size large, tipped the scales at just 40.5 pounds, barely heavier than some non-assisted trail bikes out there. That's made possible by Scott's lightweight carbon HMF frame and the TQ HPR50 motor system, which is very compact, whisper quiet, and delivers power in a way that feels so natural it's easy to forget you've got a motor at all. The HPR50 pushes out 50 Newton meters of torque. It's not about brute force, it's about balance. It amplifies your effort rather than taking over, so you still feel fully connected to the trail. You're just kind of the strongest version of yourself. Smooth climbs, efficient flats, grins for miles with a 360 watt-hour battery fueling the journey without bulking up the down tube. Now, the Lumen isn't just light, it's clever. Scott equipped it with a TwinLoc suspension system that lets you toggle between modes on the fly. Need full plushness for a rocky descent? Flip it open. Hitting smoother terrain for a long climb? You can shorten the travel or fully lock it out for a more efficient ride. It's an impressive amount of options that you can adjust mid-ride. So up front, you've got 140 millimeters of travel from a RockShox Recon Gold RL fork, and out back, 130 millimeters from an X-Fusion Nude 5 shock, all adjustable through the TwinLoc lever. And despite the hidden shock, you still get an external sag indicator, so there's no guessing work there. So altogether, the suspension hit that sweet spot between cross-country efficiency and trail bike comfort. Now let's hit the rest of the build, and just remember this is the base model option. There are higher trims available. The drivetrain is Shimano's 12-speed Dior setup with a 10 to 51 tooth cassette paired with an FSA crankset running a 34 tooth chainring. Braking is handled by Shimano's MT520 4-piston calipers with 180mm rotors front and rear. The wheels are Syncros X30S 29ers, tubeless ready, wrapped in Schwalbe Wicked Wheel 2.4-inch tires, fast rolling with a bit of bite for light technical terrain, and Formula 15x110 front hub and 12x148 rear. You also get a Syncros Duncan dropper post, adjustable between 125 and 170 millimeters of travel depending on the frame size. Also, you get a 760mm alloy bar with 8-degree sweep. Geometry-wise, Scott hit a really balanced design here. You've got a 65.5-degree head tube angle for stability on descent, paired with a steep 77-degree seat tube angle to keep you centered and efficient when climbing. Reach on our large was 476 millimeters with a wheelbase of 1240 and chainstays right at 450. The result, it feels pretty centered and controlled with that XC pop, but a trail bike's confidence when the terrain starts to get a little carvy. All of this is currently on sale. The newest Lumen with a slightly more torquey HPR60 motor is out, but that just means lower prices here with a current MSRP of $5,099. But you can check the link below for up-to-date pricing. And remember, this is just the beginning. We've still got a lot more to discuss and test data to go over, but let's do a deeper dive on that motor. We really liked the pairing of this bike and that TQ HPR50 motor. Now, there's no such thing as a perfect motor for every situation, but this system comes really close for XC and light trail use in my opinion. It's compact, it's quiet, and it blends into the ride so well that after a few minutes, you almost forget it's even there. Except, of course, when you're clocking new PRs on familiar trails. So what makes it so smooth is TQ's patented harmonic pin ring design. So instead of using traditional gears or belts, it relies on a dual ring system where multiple teeth engage at once. That means fewer moving parts, less friction, and an incredibly direct feel. All in a package that's smaller, quieter, and more efficient than most mid-drives out there. So unlike the big punchy motors for intensive climbing bikes, this one's a scalpel, not a hacksaw. It's about precision, assisting you and not taking things over. The 50 Newton-meter torque output keeps power subtle and natural, adding just the right nudge to help you increase momentum and smooth out climbs. It's even a sneaky good training tool. Because the assist is so measured, you can maintain consistent heart rate zones even on rolling or technical terrain. Now, the motor does prefer higher cadences out of the box. It feels best when you're spinning quicker, so we'd actually recommend the shorter crank arms if you're running the 175s like we did. That'll help you sync better with the HPR50's rhythm. The battery keeps the same minimalist philosophy. It's a 360 watt-hour pack, neatly integrated into the down tube, giving the bike its clean silhouette and sharp handling, a pretty natural pairing for a 250 watt nominal, 300 watt peak motor. Now, the battery is not removable, but it is expandable. You can mount an optional 160 watt-hour range extender right where a bottle cage would go, a great option for those longer days in the saddle when you're not quite ready to head home yet. It's light, it's quiet and precise, and that HPR50 doesn't shout for attention, but it absolutely transforms how natural an eMTB can feel. So the display on the Scott Lumen eRIDE keeps things beautifully simple. It's a flush-mounted monochrome unit built right into the top tube, and it looks super clean. No bulky screen, no cockpit clutter. You just get the essentials here: a battery bar, some expanding circles that show your current assist level, and a quick button toggle to scroll through your key stats like battery percentage, estimated range, speed, and power output. It's kind of minimal by design, and I really like that. It keeps your focus on the trail and not so much on the tech. Now, if you do want more data, that's where the TQ app comes into play. You can mount your phone to act as a larger display with real-time ride metrics, or jump into the tuning menu to customize your assist modes of eco, mid, and high. Riders can adjust overall power, responsiveness, and top speed. Now, personally, at 235 pounds, I gave eco a small boost to make it a bit more lively, while mid and high felt spot on right out of the box. The app also packs in helpful extras. It's got built-in user guides, FAQs, and ANT Plus connectivity, so you can pair up a bike computer or smartwatch to sync heart rate and ride data across your fitness platforms. It's everything you need and nothing that you don't, and it fits the Lumen's whole personality. It's sleek, smart, and purposefully understated. Whenever we test range, we like to see just how far an eMTB can go when you're asking for everything it's got. That means full power, the highest assist mode, and our mix of green, blue, and black single track. It's a pretty tough course that we have, designed more for enduro and all mountain bikes, so for a lighter weight XC trail machine like the Lumen, it's definitely a stress test. Now, in that test, the Scott Lumen eRIDE covered 15.6 miles while climbing 1,552 feet of elevation. And considering the compact 360 watt-hour battery, that's right in the range that we kind of expect. What really impressed us though was its efficiency. At full power, eMTBs typically average around 25.6 watts per mile. The Lumen came in at just 23.1 watts per mile, which means it's squeezing every ounce of energy out of that smaller pack. Now keep in mind, the more climbing you do, the faster that battery is going to drain. On flatter or rolling XC terrain, you can expect quite a bit more mileage. And if you do want to stretch it even further, Scott offers an optional 160 watt-hour range extender. It replaces one of your bottle cages, but still leaves room for another, giving you roughly 44% more range, a pretty nice trade-off for those long adventure days. All right, now it's time to talk about how the Scott Lumen handles one of the ultimate tests, which is, of course, the climbs. We put every eMTB through 2 hill tests, one paved, one off-road. The paved climb is at our Devil Backbone course, where every e-bike in our database gets tested up a half mile, 8% grade with 217 feet of elevation. The off-road climb at the Water Tower is reserved exclusively for eMTBs, closer to about a mile in length. I'll kick it to Justin to show you how it did.
Okay, we are out at the Devil's Backbone testing the Scott Lumen with the TQ motor. So been very interested to test this motor. Simply, I mean, it's very lightweight, very quiet, and you know, it's not an area where I'm seeing as many people dive into. It, you know, seems to be more of a power race to 100 newton meters of torque instead of something a little more natural in my weight like this one. And so we'll see. You know, I've done the hill test on some TQ motors, the city bikes, not the mountain bike yet. So this is the first time, and I do not have a speed output, so I apologize. I'll just try to describe it. And so far, I mean, it feels pretty decent. Definitely feels much more like a normal bike. Easier still than when I've climbed this with the mountain bike team on my XC bike. So I still feel like I'd beat that for sure. So yeah, so far I'm actually pretty happy. Definitely more of a workout having to push harder on this than full powers. But man, it is silent. I'll let you listen for a little bit here. So there's a faint, very faint whir that I'm hearing from the motor if I hold my head at a very specific angle. So if you hear that on the GoPro, kudos to GoPro, but I don't think you're hearing it. This bike, you know, looks like a regular bike. Climbing hills wise, feels more like a regular bike than others, but definitely still helping me. And as we finish this line, we'll go check the tape and see how it compares against the other mid-drive eMTBs. All right, we are out here doing the water power test on the Scott Lumen with that TQ motor, 50 newton meters of torque, and we'll see how it does compared to the voltage. My guess is it's going to be fairly similar to it. You can see there's some construction up here. Unfortunately, we continue to paradise a little bit, but this segment is still there for now, so we'll take advantage of it. So anyways, we're going to climb up here. I'm going to climb for a little bit, get a feel for the bike. I'll come back and give you some commentary. Let's see, we've got an analog biker up there, so this is going to be a little bit of comparison. How's it going? Have fun? So you'll notice I'm breathing a little bit more than normal, which is expected on this lightweight bike. The bike really does feel lightweight, which makes it feel way more natural if you're coming from an analog situation. The motor is incredibly silent. I don't think you heard anything, is my guess on the GoPro, because I could barely hear anything myself. The engagement of the motor is also incredibly natural. If I wasn't going faster than normal, I would completely forget that I'm on a bike. So that's a really cool natural riding feel. And even though, you know, obviously this isn't going to compare to some of the full power motors, you saw as I just kind of sped past that analog biker, kind of the difference it makes. Yes, that bike was more of an enduro bike. This is an XC bike on top of having a motor, but it still gives you a good relative comparison. And yeah, I think the nice thing about this motor, hill climbing, natural, not the most powerful, but still gets you up there way faster than you would, while also giving you a decent workout. So unique and tons of fun, and the motor very well designed, ultra quiet, just fun to ride.
So on the Devil's Backbone, the Lumen hit the top in 2 minutes and 47 seconds, averaging 10.9 miles per hour. On the Water Tower Trail, it was pretty consistent in terms of speed, clocking 4 minutes and 49 seconds with an average speed of 10.8 miles per hour. So for context, our eMTB category averages are 209 and 336 respectively. So the Lumen's times were slower, but that's not really a knock either. That's exactly how this motor was meant to behave. The TQ HPR50 isn't built to bulldoze up the hill. It's there to complement your effort. It's balanced and smooth and keeps you moving forward without turning the ride into a passive experience. You're still doing the work, just a bit more efficiently. This makes it perfect for riders who want to stay in control, keep heart rates consistent, or train smarter without burning out on long climbs. It's also a great equalizer, letting you keep pace with friends on analog bikes while still getting a genuine workout. If you want a motor that makes this part easy, it's probably not your guy. If you want to kick butt on hills yourself with just a little leg up, that's what it's here for. The Shimano Dior 12-speed drivetrain also deserves a shout out as well. The range is excellent and shifting stayed crisp throughout both climbs. Honestly, we rarely even needed the lowest gear, but it's nice to know it's there when you hit those extra steep sections. So while the numbers may not top the charts, the feel absolutely does if you don't want to say goodbye to the burn. The Lumen turns effort into efficiency, and that's exactly what XC riders are all about.
Hey everybody, thanks for sticking around. We're going to be talking about this Scott Lumen in our ride quality portion of the video today. So I've got to start off by saying I don't know that there's another bike that we've had on test yet that I was less excited about riding than this one. And I have to say, after spending a little bit of time on this bike, I was totally wrong. I don't think, like, usually I'll have an idea about a bike before I get on. I try not to dive too much into what's been said about bikes by other reviewers. Try and just go into it with an open mind, which is what I did here. But at the same time, I just had a hard time getting excited about an cross-country bike, which is essentially like what we got here. This is the Scott Lumen with the TQ motor, which I absolutely love, paired with a 360 watt-hour battery, internal, which you can get a 160 watt-hour range extender for. This bike is a 29er, very much cross-country geometry. It's got fast rolling cross-country tires, 29er front and rear. Good spec on the bike we got here. Not great, but good. Certainly they've got higher build specs that are lighter weight and obviously more expensive. But it's funny, you know, I don't know a lot of times that that extra bling on bikes translates into ride quality. But at any rate, so this bike really is, in my opinion, one of the best training tools for cross-country riding. Now I know that that's probably been mentioned before by other reviewers of e-bikes, but what sets this bike apart is that when you go out on a training ride, if you need to stay in a specific zone, number one, like this bike can help you do that, but any e-bike can do that. What this does, unique to a lot of other e-bikes that you could ride, is that this still gives you the feel and ride quality of your cross-country bike. So you don't feel like you're really, you know, giving up much when you jump on like an e-bike where you think, okay, I'm training for a cross-country race, but then you jump on an e-bike for a nice long zone 2 training ride and you're riding a freaking enduro bike, right? So it doesn't quite translate as far as training goes, where this Scott Lumen absolutely does. It's got the ability to, like we're on right here, flatter terrain. It is super easy to pedal with the motor off, which is what I'm doing right now. So we're gonna just bump it up to the lowest power setting. There we go. You know, you find yourself getting a little bit too high of a heart rate. The nice thing about this TQ motor, and what I think makes it really ideal for a light SL cross-country style e-bike, is that you can't hear it and it's not overwhelming. It just kind of, it gives you assistance, but it just kind of fades into the background. And if you're not careful, you can kind of question, hey, is it actually helping me or not? Because it's pretty subtle, and on top of the subtlety from the power standpoint, it's pretty subtle on the power as well. It gives a max output of 50 Newton meters of torque and 350 watts of peak power. So, but of course, you can dial that back. You can customize that in the different modes as well. But I'm just gonna stop talking here for a second and let you guys listen to this motor, see if you can actually even hear it. Most motors have more noise at the higher cadences, regardless of the power, from what my experience is. So right now we are in the lowest power setting. Okay, we'll bump it up to the middle. All right, now here's the boost, or the highest power setting. So it is there. I mean, there's a slight slight noise there, but as far as how well the motor performs versus other motors, I mean, it's going to be on the lower end, but at the same time, I mean, if you're out on a cross-country bike, on cross-country style trails, there's a really good chance that you can ride this bike with the motor off for a lot of your ride. Now, having said that, we've got travel numbers are 130 front and rear on this bike, but in true Scott fashion, they've got the TwinLoc system on this bike. So there's 2 settings. Actually, there's a total of 3 settings. They've got their totally open, which they call descend mode. Then there's the middle setting, which is traction mode, and that's where right above your dropper post, there's a lever there you can push in, and it reduces the travel of the rear wheel to 90 millimeters instead of 130. And when you're pedaling with the motor off, it's noticeable how much that helps your pedaling platform. Now there is the full lockout front and rear. That's not something that I've used much of, but it does just kind of exactly what it says, locks it out. Now if you're on a sprint or maybe a paved road, you want to get the most out of each pedal stroke, that's a great option. But when you flip to the third lever above the dropper post, that opens it back up. And when you do that, you can noticeably feel the bike settle into the sag a little bit more, and you've got this much more plush feel to the bike. Now, the bike is also rated for 140 millimeter fork. Personally, I don't know if it makes that much of a difference between the 130, 140, but it's an option. We've got, we've got the chance to kind of take this on a lot of different types of terrain here in southern Utah. And like most cross-country bikes in some of our rougher sections of trails, basically you just got to slow down a little bit. It can still do it all. It can hit all of the fun stuff that you want to go ride on, but like when you're riding other cross-country bikes, it just takes a little bit out of its downhill ability. It's not to say that it can't do it, because it certainly can. One of the controversial things about this bike is the headset. It's got the forever hated internal headset cable routing. So for me, the cross-country bike that I have, I've replaced the stem to a short stem with a slightly higher bar raise. That's just what I like personally. And of course, we know everybody has their own preferences with how they like to set up their bike. With this bike, it's kind of a little bit tougher to go do that with how it comes with this headset. So something to think about if you have thought about getting this bike. Okay, how does the bike climb? Amazingly well. I mean, when you put it in the traction control mode, I mean, you can just motor up, scoot up anything. It is not in that same class of e-bikes that, is going to be a type of motor that takes over what the rider is unable to do. This will enhance the rider's ability, but it does not it does not take it over, which I know a lot of people really like. Just being able to still feel like you're the one pedaling the bike. There's another thing that I know that will be a little bit controversial, and that's the tires that come spec'd on the bike. They are full-on cross-country tires, so you know, if you're gonna go really send it down some chunky terrain, you'll want to put some type of insert.
So Bryce took you out on a nice long ride. I'll just summarize and add a few thoughts. Out on the trail, the Lumen really shows what it's made for. Light, quick, and surprisingly capable. The geometry feels modern and balanced for trail riding, and that overall low weight gives it this snappy, responsive character that just makes you want to keep flowing from corner to corner. The suspension sits on the firmer, more supportive side, which feels right for a bike in this category. It keeps you high in the travel and ready to accelerate, but still smooths out the chatter nicely, and of course is adjustable with the TwinLoc system. The four-piston Shimano brakes were a great call, plenty of stopping power and modulation, especially compared to two-piston setups you sometimes see on XC builds. The drivetrain performed flawlessly, though I'd say that the tires, wheels, and hubs are where future upgrades could really wake this bike up even more. The Wicked wheels did mostly good on our hard-packed trails, but lose some bite in softer terrain, and a faster engaging rear hub would make the most of that gentle motor response. Now, all said, it's a seriously competent trail bike, efficient, agile, and a ton of fun when you're pushing it. All right, let's wrap up with a quick look at the pros and cons of the Scott Lumen eRIDE. So first off, the frame and geometry are fantastic. It's a clean, trail-ready build with that hidden shock and sleek internal cable routing. And unless you know what to look for, you'd barely notice it's an e-bike at all. Then there's of course the motor. TQ's HPR50 is quiet, refined, and really dialed in. It's not trying to overpower you, it's just there to enhance your effort, and it does that beautifully. At about 41-ish pounds, the bike feels light and lively on the trail, which makes it one of the most natural handling eMTBs that we have tested. And combine that with Scott's TwinLoc suspension, and you've got a setup that's easy to fine-tune for any terrain. The Shimano MT524 piston brakes are another win, more power and control than you often find for this type of bike. And for those longer rides, the 160 watt-hour range extender is a slick way to add about 44% more mileage. Now on the flip side, the stock wheels and hubs are a bit on the heavy side with some slower engagement that can dull some of that agile feel. And while the integrated shock design looks incredible, it does make maintenance and cable swaps a bit trickier. Overall though, those trade-offs feel small compared to how refined and balanced this bike really is. The Scott Lumen eRIDE is one of those bikes that hides its brilliance in plain sight. It's nimble, efficient, and so stealthy you could ride past many people without them even realizing it's electric, or even full suspension for that matter. It's packed with subtle, satisfying surprises. Out on the trail, the ride quality is excellent. This is a lively, short travel trail machine that handled our Utah desert terrain with total confidence. The HPR50 motor runs whisper quiet, delivering that perfect middle ground, enough power to keep you grinning, but never so much that it takes away from the workout. The Shimano MT524 piston brakes and the TwinLoc suspension stand out as well, giving you real control over how the bike feels and reacts to changing terrain. Now this base model leaves room for a few easy upgrades, but as it stands, it's a genuinely fun and capable eMTB, especially now that prices on this outgoing generation are dropping. So if you're an XC rider looking for subtle support or just want an e-bike that keeps things pure and quiet, the Scott Lumen is worth checking out. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the Lumen down below. Check the link for the latest on pricing details and subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. I'm Griffin with Electric Bike Report. I'll see you on the next ride.